Hi everyone, it's Zane Keller, and today we're going to go over the legal implications of genetic modification. I think the last two posts, my first video post, kind of given the outline of what this genetic modification is used now, its potential use, and the last video when we actually had the creator of the CRISPR-Cas9 system. I shared that TED Talk with you and her understanding, and she gave a little bit about the legal and the societal implication, but I think today we want to delve a little deeper into what issues from a legal standpoint we could face with this. And I want to start with what issues we have now. So we all have heard of Monsanto. They're a seed company. They genetically modify. They have GMOs, genetically modified organisms, and they sell their seeds to farmers. And what they're able to do is each year farmers have to buy new seeds because the old seeds won't work with that harvest. And they've been able to genetically modify this. And they have a huge market cap. They're a very successful company, but they're also been accused of some predatory actions against farmers. By this I mean that Monsanto, if you're a farmer that buys a seed or not, and the seed ends up in your crops, you're sued by Monsanto for using their seed without paying for it. You might think that this is kind of harsh or manipulative, but if you think about it, Monsanto is making money off the seed. The seed's not free. They're not open sourcing this seed. And they've put the responsibility on the farmer to try and combat the seed from coming onto their land in whatever capacity that they can. Well, here's a little fun fact. In 1998, when Monsanto introduced its seed, in a matter of 2 years, it was able to get 1.7 hectares of land for its seed to grow on. Fast forward to today. It's grown on about 10 million hectares a year, and it's almost at 200 million hectares of land, which is a lot. But here's where the legal issue comes in, is that Monsanto has somehow convinced the United States government to put in a policy shielding them from being sued or the courts being able to take action if any of the seeds that they have cause harm to humans. Now this is where you can argue that they've overstepped their ethical and professional boundaries. It's one thing to make sure that farmers pay for their use of the seeds. It's another thing to say we have no liability if our seeds cause poisoning, cause defects, or cause death. There's nothing that us as the public can do about it. And this is what I want to point out when you come to genetic modification. So in the second article, we're looking at the CRISPR patent conflict. So obviously the CRISPR tool is revolutionary. It's one of a kind today. But again, when you have something like this that really is a game changer, the likelihood that something comes in and really is able to disrupt it is high. Things are changing all the time. People find a better way to give a service. And the service right now is just being able and trying to take out genes that cause diseases, viruses, or some sort of problem in humans. And what we're trying to do now is try and figure out how do those same legal applications of Monsanto and their GMO seed apply to the CRISPR-Cas9 or any genetic modification down the road. And I think the first thing we need to look at is different tools. So the CRISPR-Cas9 is one tool. It's a gene editing tool. Now there may be other gene editing tools down the road. And what would happen is that if a company like a Monsanto is able to do what it does, but in humans, does it have the same legal right as Monsanto does with the seeds? If a gene that they created to make someone smarter, faster, stronger, whatever attribute you can think of, ends up in someone who was not So, given the scenario, someone who's been genetically modified has a child with someone that's not been genetically modified, and the child of that couple has certain genes that the genetically modified parent does. Does Monsanto have the right to A, sue because it's their gene that was passed down into that child, or B, does that child or the family have to pay Monsanto for that child having the genes? And what happens if it becomes a widespread thing? Would a Monsanto-like company that owns the genes or owns the patent for the genes have rights to charge every single person? And what if those genes ends up harming someone? If the wrong combination of genes happens, which it has, and it causes death or mental incapability or physical incapability, is Monsanto held responsible? And these are the kind of questions that we're going to need to ask going down the road. We're going to need to be able to find out whether this genetic modification will have the same implications, because if it does, it might be a fear for the public. They don't want to think that a gene could, one, harm them, and they couldn't do anything about it, they couldn't get any punitive damages from it, or two, that they have to pay just for having a child. I mean, children are expensive as it is. Having to pay for them is another thing. But who knows? You might have certain people in society, probably high society, that want their children to be the best in every single category possible. And that's why they would use this tool. That's why they'd be willing to pay the big money, to keep their family or their heritage or their bloodline at that top level in terms of society. Next time, we're going to talk about the social implication. What does it mean for us socially? How is it going to change our demographics? How is it going to change how we interact with one another? And we're going to summarize this entire bit and find out what does this all mean? What do we care about it? And if it's here right now, when is it going to start affecting us, our kids, or our grandkids? Have a good one.